From historic Seminary Ridge in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, this is The Seminary Explores. Conversations about people, politics, theology, and life with your host, Dr. Gerald Christianson.
Meet Kristin Rice. She has been in the public defender's office of Adams County in the great state of Pennsylvania for 13 years and has been chief public defender for 3. Her husband is John Wolf, and he is a member of the firm of Wolf and Rice, which was founded in 1986. Kristin is a graduate of Goucher College and of Dickinson Law School, and we're going to talk today about the role of the public defender in American society. Kristin, in the mission statement of the Public Defender's Office, it says, "It is the objective of this office to provide competent and effective representation on behalf of the accused in each case and to ensure that all individuals, regardless of financial circumstances, are afforded due process and the protections of our state and federal constitutions." Is that just made up, or is there a good law that undergirds the Public Defender's Office?
Well, I actually wrote that mission statement, so it's made up in terms of that's my prose, but it is very much undergirded by constitutional law. And last year was a big anniversary for public defenders and for constitutional law in general. It was the 50th anniversary of the case Gideon versus Wainwright. And that was a Florida case that a man by the name of Clarence Gideon was involved in he wasn't involved as it turns out, but he was alleged to have been involved in the burglary of a bar in Panama City. A single witness, said that they saw Mr. Gideon leaving the bar at 5:30 in the morning with cash in his hand and beer in his pocket. So based on that one witness statement, Mr. Gideon was arrested and charged with theft and burglary. And when he went in front of the judge, he said, "Your Honor, I can't afford an attorney. And it does say in the Constitution that I should be afforded counsel." He did this on his own, pro se, as we call it in Latin. And the judge said, "Well, I'm really sorry, Mr. Gideon, but I can't give you counsel for free unless this is a capital case," meaning that he faced the death penalty. So Clarence Gideon was tried based on the testimony of the one witness. He was convicted and sent to prison for 5 years. During the time he was in prison, he used his prison law library, as meager as it was, and with his pencil, he wrote to the United States Supreme Court that not having counsel violated the 6th Amendment to the Constitution that provides for the right to counsel during criminal prosecutions. And the Supreme Court agreed with him. They overturned his conviction. The judge appointed counsel, and his new counsel was able to very effectively cross-examine the witness, and Mr. Gideon was acquitted, lived a long life, died in Florida in the 1980s. But this was the start of the public defender system, because the United States Supreme Court said that every state court, through the 14th Amendment, which applies to the states, the rights guaranteed by the 6th Amendment, needs to provide counsel if this is an offense for which jail time may be imposed. So now all 50 states have a public defender system. But one thing that's really interesting is that Pennsylvania is the only state in the union that does not use state funding. We are entirely county funded. Even Salt Lake City, Utah, which is like the last holdout, and I believe South Dakota, they have the county systems, but they still use some state funding. We have no state funding. So why we're the last to do this, I simply don't know.
That reminds me, are you the most popular attorney in Adams County, having been always a are you really? She's nodding her head saying yes.
Yeah, no, I'm
not what I hear.
I'm nodding because, yes, that's a good question.
Okay, good.
I actually say that I'm probably the least popular of all women in Adams County, maybe after Hillary Clinton.
And that's because?
I can't tell you how many times I get the question, how do you sleep at night? How do you represent people that you know are guilty? And it's so funny because I don't see it like that at all. And since this is Seminary Explorers, I'm going to insert here that I am a very committed Lutheran. I was baptized up the street at Christ Lutheran in 1960, and I feel very much that being a public defender is part of my ministry, as well as my job. And when I think about the part in Matthew where Jesus says, have you visited those in prison? So to me, this is where God has placed me as an attorney, where I can most effectively carry out my own personal mission.
The work of the public defender is mainly to be geared toward those who cannot, are financially unqualified, or not financially qualified. Mm-hmm. But they can include, according to your mission statement, abuse, contempt cases, intermediate punishment, revocation matters, especially those matters of mental health with involuntary commitment, mm-hmm. and other such things. So we're talking about people who are among the most needy at that moment. Yes. when you handle their cases.
People have to apply for a public defender, and we use as a bottom line for whom we will represent people who are at 125% of the federal poverty level. Now, that basically comes down to about $300 a week net income for a single person with no dependents. If you have dependents, obviously 1, 2, 3 children, that income amount under which you would still qualify rises. If you are incarcerated, regardless of what you might own, you do automatically qualify for a public defender. So who do we represent? We represent people who are charged with misdemeanors and felonies. We don't represent people who are charged with what we call summary offenses, which would be like traffic offenses for which you ordinarily just pay a fine. The only time we will get involved in a summary offense is if it's something that carries mandatory jail time, such as driving under suspension because of a DUI. That carries a mandatory 60 days in jail. But if there's no jail, essentially there's no right to a public defender. We also represent people who are being revoked from probation or parole. We represent people who are being charged with contempt of court, whether it be for non-payment of fines or for violation of a protection from abuse order. And we represent people who are being sought to be involuntarily committed, because they're a danger to themselves or others. Although mostly the only people that we represent along those lines are those who are already incarcerated.
We're talking to Kristin Rice, who is the Chief Public Defender of the County of Adams in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, about the role of the public defender and what law undergirds this office. We're broadcasting today in a public setting, as we do a couple of times a year. As Kristin has already said in her reference to her baptism, we are actually in an adult discussion group at St. James Lutheran Church in beautiful downtown Gettysburg, where we sometimes hold these hearings so that we can share our program with the public. You can't talk about the cases that you've actually undertaken, but we do know that you will have to deal with in Adams County. You have to deal with the prosecutor's office almost constantly. Then
I do, and
so there's a nice, warm adversarial relationship. You go out to dinner frequently and celebrate your joys and your victories. And
well, I can't say that the relationship is social, but it is certainly cordial.
Good.
Because we do have to work together, and I think that we both the district attorney and his assistants and myself and my assistants, justice is our end.
Mm-hmm. And you work together under that aegis, that we are both going for the same thing, justice.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, my sister is an attorney. She's retired now, but she was a prosecutor. Mm-hmm. And my sister and I are very, very similar in our philosophy in life and our compassion towards people. And it's, working for justice can be as a prosecutor or a defender.
Yeah. There's a thing in Luther, about the two hands, the right hand and the left hand of God, but we'll do that some other time. And you represent the right hand of God, which is just as important to him
well,
as it
I'm
is the left
probably
hand.
more towards the left.
No, that is a different set of criteria, but some other time on that one too. What about your relationship with the county commissioners? I was unaware that all of your funding comes from the county. So you're constantly having to, excuse me for saying it, beg for money from the commissioners?
Well, fortunately, our county commissioners, who are technically my boss, I have to maintain an independence from the court. So I don't report to the court. I am not under the court. I'm allowed to be political, etc. I'm under the county commissioners. And they know that this service needs to be provided, and it needs to be provided well. Because if it's not provided well, these cases will continue to come back in other forms, appeals that win and the cases are remanded, or something called collateral attack, which would... A lot of times when defendants are convicted and they go to state prison, they allege that their counsel was ineffective, and that therefore was a violation of their Sixth Amendment and 14th Amendment rights. And if counsel is found to be ineffective, those cases come right back and start at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that your public defender's office is supported, and I believe our county commissioners have done that. Now, there are situations which require a great deal of money. And what I'm referring to right now is 3 years ago now, I tried a capital case. Mm-hmm. And that was a case in which the district attorney sought the death penalty. The basic facts of the case were that a game warden stopped a young man near the Gettysburg battlefield for a poaching incident, and a gun battle ensued, and the game warden was killed. So I represented the defendant in that case. Now, when a case becomes capital, suddenly the whole landscape changes. First of all, you have to have certain qualifications as an attorney before you even handle that case, and those are set by our state Supreme Court. So you have to have tried at least 8 felony 1 cases to a jury conclusion. You need to be specially trained in capital case litigation, and you need to have practiced a certain amount of years in criminal defense. So I was the only attorney at that time who had those qualifications that didn't otherwise have a conflict. But not only that, those cases require 2 attorneys in order to try them. And so we had to bring in a second attorney to try it with me. And we brought in the chief public defender from Lycoming County, who had handled 20 death penalty cases. On top of that, I needed a lot of experts. I needed something called a mitigation specialist, who basically collected every piece of paper that was ever generated on this defendant's life in order to present a mitigation case. If he were to be convicted, we would move right into a penalty phase to try to spare his life, and that's in fact what happened. So that case probably ended up costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now that wasn't in my budget. So in that particular case, every expert I got and the additional counsel, I petitioned the court to provide it. Mm-hmm. And the court did. I mean, I really wasn't denied any of the resources I needed. But so the commissioners fund my annual budget, but if I have these extraordinary expenses, I go to the court.
It's good to know that the society around us will go to bat for persons, even those who probably already been tried in the press and found guilty, but will provide the wherewithal in which people will get the best defense they possibly can. And that was true in this case.
I suppose. I would say, quite frankly, that if we did away with the death penalty, we wouldn't need that wherewithal.
I was going to ask you that in the next question. How do you feel about the death penalty?
I'm very much opposed to it. I'm opposed to it both on a moral basis and on a practical economic basis. I'm opposed morally because it goes against my Christian values. I don't believe in an eye for an eye. I believe society needs to be kept safe, and so if we need to incarcerate individuals for their whole lives, so be it. But I don't believe that Jesus would have demanded an eye for an eye. On a practical basis, I feel that the death penalty doesn't work. It has not been shown to be a deterrent. It is outrageously expensive. You know, people think that it's cheaper to kill someone than it is to keep them incarcerated for life. That's completely untrue. It is so much more expensive by the time we have gotten through numerous appellate appeals, not to mention the expense of the security involved in keeping someone on death row. And it's almost, well, I mean, I don't know what's happening exactly in Oklahoma and Texas, but in Pennsylvania, we haven't even executed someone who didn't volunteer to be executed by waiving all their appeals since, I believe, the 90s. So even though we've got this huge, cumbersome capital litigation system, it's a myth, really. Mm-hmm. So it's accomplishing nothing, and I think it diminishes us as a people. And I think particularly in light of what's gone on with these botched executions lately, it shows the inhumanity of it, and it's particularly hard, I believe, on those that we appoint to carry it out. I mean, what are we asking them to do? So yes, I am a very vocal opponent of the death penalty.
Our guest today is Kristin Rice, who is the Chief Public Defender of the County of Adams in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The discussion today has been taking place at St. James Lutheran Church in downtown Gettysburg, and we'll extend this discussion after we conclude this program. Thank you for listening today. I'm Jerry Christianson for the Seminary Explorers. Have a very good day.
You've been listening to The Seminary Explorers from historic Seminary Ridge in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a production of the Lutheran Theological Seminary at Gettysburg. We invite you to visit our website at www.ltsg.edu. All opinions expressed on this program are those of the individual speakers and are not necessarily those of Gettysburg Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.